Good morning. For those joining for the first time, my name's Conor Battigan, Chief Executive of Sandyford Business District. Sandyford Business District is the largest business improvement district on the island of Ireland. There are 4 business parks: Central Park, South County, Sandyford and Stillorgan. There are 5,000 residents, 26,000 employees and 1,000 companies. It's basically a city within a city. The increased business activity over the last week is very encouraging. It's great to see, and you can stay up to date on all Sandyford Business District developments and COVID-19 business supports on sandyford.ie. This is our 9th webinar in our series of webinars, and it will last approximately 45 minutes, and we will be compiling questions throughout the webinar. This morning's webinar is about LIFT, Leading Ireland's Future Together. LIFT helps businesses to strengthen and prosper by changing the way people view leadership and by equipping them with a process to strengthen their own personal leadership skills. Today we are joined by Joanne Hession, leader of LIFT. Good morning, Joanne, and welcome.
Good morning, Conor. How are you?
I'm very well. Firstly, how have you been coping with the pandemic?
Yeah, extremely well, actually. We moved everything online in a very short period of time for LIFT. So we have been running LIFT sessions online with hundreds of people every week in the general public, and our partner organizations are all moving online with it too. So yeah, no, good. And personally, to be honest, I've kind of enjoyed working from home and having the routine of working from home rather than being out and about all the time. So it's been good for me. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's good to have it's nice to have that blend, I suppose, if you can get the blend right. I suppose it's accelerated the inevitable. Remote working, it has been happening for a number of years, and I think it's sort of it's given people the shove, or companies the shove, people who wouldn't have adopted remote working previously because they probably felt it didn't suit their business. Now they realize it does. So it's changed the business environment, I think, probably for the better. But we'll watch this space. I understand a number of businesses in Sandyford Business District have been on the LIFT journey, and some of those may be joining you today on this webinar, Joanne.
Yeah, that's right, Conor. I thought that was the best way of really talking about LIFT and helping organizations to understand how LIFT can benefit their business by bringing in some of those that got involved right from the very start to tell you about their experience of it and how it has benefited their organizations and, most importantly, their teams and their people.
Great. That's good to hear, Joanne, and look forward to hearing from you.
Great. Thanks, Conor. Thanks for inviting us in. So we're going to get started and tell you a little bit about LIFT. Thank you to Sandyford Business District for inviting us here for this webinar today, and also to Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council, who are helping us to get the message out to all businesses in the district and the region. So huge thanks to them for inviting us along today. Before I introduce you to my 3 guests that are with me, let me show you a short video about LIFT and tell you a little bit about what we're doing.
What makes change happen?
We can lift ourselves, we can lift each other.
People make change happen.
One person at a time, one conversation at a time, one day at a time.
Even big ideas begin small. Their oxygen is people. People who also want change. Big ideas need resources, giants to push the rock up that hill. They need a tribe, people who know what has to be done for them and everyone. Big ideas are only as good as their ability to be executed. After just 1 year, LIFT is being lived in over 50 partner organisations in multiple sectors, including major banks, our national broadcaster, our national electricity provider, and our main airport and support services. Indigenous, state and multinationals all across Ireland. And we can already see that small actions create great change.
I've reconnected and I've been inspired to reconnect by Lift with my values and my purpose.
Me to influence and challenge these young men and potential future leaders.
Lift for me has been an amazing experience.
And part of that is making simple, positive changes.
The Lift themes of listening and respect stand foremost in my mind.
Everybody's voice is heard in a non-judgmental and safe place.
It's been absolutely phenomenal.
Helped me to self-reflect and improve as a person.
The values inspiring.
How we can be better leaders by being more positive, by being more respectful.
Everybody who can influence another is a leader.
We know that Lift works. The next strategic phase sees intense activity in key geographical areas. With 100 new corporates and over 3,000 teenage secondary school students. We are fueled by an inspirational vision, excellence and impact. Lift is the mechanism for inclusive social change in leadership in Ireland. Ireland is leading as a nation, acknowledging and acting, because with good leadership, better is possible. Our vision is that by 2028, 10% of Ireland will be lifted. Good leadership matters to you and to Ireland. You've lifted up, now let's all lift out. Invite your family, your club and your company to help make Ireland the best country with the best leaders in the world.
Great. So let's get started and let's tell you a little bit about Lift. Lift is about changing, getting real positive change happening in Ireland. And I suppose on a more practical level for all of you that are in businesses in the Sandyford Business District, Lift is about creating positive change where you need it in your organizations. And how we do that is we help individuals within organizations to build leadership. Now, I need to get us all on the same page about what we mean about leadership, because we've leadership positions with organizations and we have other positions in organizations. But when we talk about leadership, we're not actually talking about a position, because leadership isn't really a position. Leadership is about who you are on the outside. It's about who you are on the inside. Leadership is about people wanting to follow you. If leadership was a position, me having the CEO title in Lift Ireland, you know, that buys me a little bit of time with people, but unless I'm actually acting in a leadership way, unless I'm leading well, nobody wants to follow me at all. So it doesn't matter whether I have the title or not. If I'm not acting in a good leadership way, if I'm not behaving in a good leadership way, then nobody wants to follow me. So the first thing is that leadership is not a position. And in Lift, we help organizations and their people to build their leadership character and skills. The second thing about leadership, and another myth around leadership, is that sometimes we think that leadership and management are the exact same thing, and they're not. Management, and really good management, is about getting the right person to do the right thing in the right way at the right time. So if I'm a really good manager, I'm going to make sure that people are doing the right thing in the right way at the right time, and that they're the right people doing it. It doesn't necessarily mean, though, that I am leading well. It just means that I'm managing well. And if I'm a really good manager and you want to see if I'm a really good leader, then ask me to create some positive change with some of my people. And if I can easily create that change, then I'm leading well, because people want to follow me. But if it's difficult for me to create that change, then I may have been managing well, but I may not be leading well, and that people may not naturally want to follow me. So leadership is about the influence that we have with other people, and every single one of us, whether we're a 14-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 60-year-old, every single one of us is a leader. And sometimes we lead very well, and sometimes we lead not so well. So at Lift Ireland, what we're looking to do is to build our leadership capacity and leadership capability within organizations, within sports clubs, within families and homes, and within communities as well. But for us today here, we're looking specifically at the Sandyford Business District. I have 3 fantastic ambassadors of Lift, all of whom have brought Lift into their organizations. I have 2 organizations that really got involved in Lift at the very start 2 years ago as founding partners. And those 2 organizations are CPL and RSA. And then I have an organization that got involved with us more recently to tell you about their experience, and that's Enterprise Solutions. So I'm going to introduce you to each of them. So first up, I'm delighted to have Suzanne Dolan, who is the Managing Director of Covalent. And Covalent is one of the divisions of CPL in the district here. And so Suzanne is going to tell you about why they've got involved in Lift themselves in a really practical way, and you know, what it has meant to them. So Suzanne, I'll hand over the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Joanne. I'm delighted to be here today to speak to you all about the excellent Lift experience I've had. So as Joanne mentioned, I work for Covalent, which is part of the CPL group. We work in the Sandyford District and have our own facility where we manage business on behalf of our excellent clients. We really, really enjoy being part of the Sandyford community. So on a personal note, as to why did I get involved with this program, I've been working with my leadership team for the last 16 to 20 years. And we have a huge commitment within our organization to leadership and personal development. But with this very tenured team, we were experiencing a little bit of coaching fatigue. We'd been coached and trained and developed, and I was looking with my L&D leaders for another way to help continue our leadership journey. I met with Joanne Hession, the amazing lady you've just heard, who explained the Lift methodology to myself and my L&D team, and we were sold. And the reason for that is the Lift program is completely aligned to Covalent's company values, and I was really delighted that it could be scalable across our entire business. So speaking about my own leadership team, the Lift program is an excellent vehicle to get a very tenured team of leaders to engage with each other in a very new way. And that allowed them to increase their leadership behaviours in small but meaningful ways on a weekly basis with their colleagues. What we enjoy most about the roundtable experience is that even though we know each other so well after working together for so many years, we were surprised by how much more there was to learn, not only for our own personal development and but really what we could learn about each other and how each other ticks and you know, what each person is perhaps maybe struggling with. The sessions take only 30 to 40 minutes per week, which is not a lot in our busy worlds that we currently live in. I personally enjoyed the experience so much that I began doing 4 to 5 Lift sessions per week with different teams. And this was an amazing, wonderful really experience for myself as the leader of the business to get to know on a consistent basis other teams that I may not have been as close to. I was able to get very close to my leaders of the future, which is such an important thing to do because you get comfortable with your own team, but what about the teams coming up behind them? It's hard sometimes to get to spend time with them. But these people who I have now got, you know, great relationships with, they've got so many wonderful ideas and so many solutions. But I did realize that I could not complete sessions for my entire organization by myself, because our numbers are about 2,500 at the moment and set to increase. So I realized that starting with my leadership team, I would need them to develop into facilitators, which they did. And I tasked them with embedding Lift throughout our organization. We now have 40% of our organisation being lifted on a weekly basis, and we plan to make that 100% over the coming year. A portion of our business is outside of Ireland, so that's where we would like to take our Lift journey next. If you look at the bottom part of the slide I have there, you'll see some of the feedback that I received. This was actually from my sessions, from some of my new colleagues that I got to know very, very well. And it is having such a positive effect on them that they actually talk about the values and the reflections weekly to their own teams as well. So I would like to thank Joanne and the Lift team for encouraging me to get involved, and it's been a very, very worthwhile experience for me and my team. Thank you very much, Joanne.
Brilliant, Suzanne. Thanks a million. And Suzanne, you referred to the round table. Just before I go on to Louise there, you referred to the round table, and just to explain to those that are listening in. So what Lift Ireland does is Lift shows organisations how to use the Lift process. And then the organisations embed Lift into their organisations using what are called round tables. And we train people within your organization to become facilitators of these round tables. It is so easy to do, and as Suzanne said, she was doing multiples of them as she was going through the organization. They're so easy, the round tables. It's a very simple process. In fact, it's so simple it's probably a bit deceptive, but it's very, very effective. And what it does is it helps to embed really good leadership values like listening, integrity, empathy, resilience, positive attitude, respect, all the things that we really need to become even better leaders than we already are. But Suzanne, it's the round tables that you did, isn't that right?
It is, and what makes the round table and the way that Lift have prepared the facilitators for doing the round tables is that they're not complicated. What happens is usually the complication, what has happened to me in the past, is the complication of doing a training session or doing a coaching session, or what you've got to fill in or how you've to organize it, makes the actual event of doing trying to look at each of the values the secondary part of the equation. Whereas with the round tables, everybody gets equal time to speak. Nobody makes any opinion about what anybody else says. So it's a very safe and simple environment to actually learn to be slightly better than you were last week. We're not looking for massive changes. We're looking for small, steady steps on a weekly basis that you choose, that you can actually deliver to. And that's what makes it so accessible for everybody in our organization.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Suzanne. Really appreciate it, and for you explaining it to everyone today. Stay there anyway in case there are any questions coming on. Next up, I'd like to introduce to you Louise Lombard. And Louise also was one of those individuals and part of one of those organizations that totally jumped on at the beginning and got engaged quickly. Louise is the head of culture, communications and engagement with RSA, and she's here to tell you a little bit about their experience of Lift Ireland. Louise.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks a million, Joanne. It's great to be here to talk to you about Lift, and I suppose just to pick up on that point, I suppose what we love about Lift and have loved about Lift is its simplicity. And for us, one of our company values is love simplicity. And it's just, I suppose, the last 24 months on our journey with Lift, it's the ease, and to pick up on Suzanne's point there, it's not a big clunky training and leadership program. This is just simple. You can do it from your kitchen, from the work table in work, whatever it might be, from your desk. It's simply picking up and reading 2 pages about values, and that's it, and having a really good conversation about it. So I suppose just to start with that piece. But for us, when we first got on board with Lift, being very open, when we heard that Joanne was coming in to talk to us, we were like, no, we've enough on. There's plenty of things that we have to be doing, and we just can't take something else on. And I think within 5 minutes of Joanne starting to tell the story about what Lift is and what Lift stands for, we were on board, and there was no turning back. And for us, 2 years in, we're only more grateful, I think, every day that we've become one of the founding partners. As I said, for us, one of our company values is the simplicity piece. And I think looking back for us, you know, what are the things that we love about Lift? I think it's the inclusiveness. So we tend to think of leaders and can think of leaders in a very traditional hierarchical way. Actually, what Lift does, everybody's a leader. So no matter where you fit in an organization, no matter where you fit in your family, whether the youngest, the oldest, the CEO or the new recruit, everybody is equal. And for us, that resonates with us from a culture perspective as we look to become more inclusive and make sure that people feel they belong. Actually, if you sit in a circle, and as Suzanne gave us a sense there of what that circle looks like, we have lots of facilitators who might be one of the more junior people on the team, and they're sitting there with quite senior people, and yet they're the facilitator, and vice versa. So everybody comes in on an equal footing, and that's something that we really love about Lift. The other piece for us has been the connection. So in this very simple circle where you talk about one value, be it listening, empathy, respect, per week for 30 minutes, people connect on a different level. It's not every day or certainly in any situation, that people come together to talk about something on a very human level. And when people start to share their stories or where they have come across listening or struggled with listening, you begin to get an insight into people and their home life, their personal life, their work life, and people begin to connect on a very different and powerful level. And for us, one of the things I suppose that's been really insightful for us has been a lot of our business would be typically data-led people, and you know, they can be cynical coming into things like the simplicity of a lift program. And in fact, they're the ones who have really bought into this. And one of the photos you'll see there is actually our chief actuary holding up our lift certificate from last year when we lifted 10% of our organisation. Fergal's our chief actuary. He's a very data-led individual, but he has chosen himself to be the brand ambassador for Lift in our organisation and asked to hold that role because he's so bought into the powerfulness, the simplicity, but the positive change that Lift can bring into an organisation. I suppose for us, again, to the getting started bit, it's easy. Like it's not, as I said, a big rollout process. What we chose to do was go for those and role model for this from the beginning. Ken at the time, Ken Norgrove was our CEO, and Ken and his exec team were the first ones to go through a Lift circle, and they became the champions and the role models for Lift throughout our org. We've about 650 people across the island. And from there, being very honest, it grew organically. You'll see the bottom photo there is a whole host of us being conferred with our Lift facilitator certificates. And from that, we rolled it out across our different locations. Before we went remote, we had different teams dialing in from our Galway office, from our Belfast office, and the Dublin team here as well. And it just brought people together again on that connectivity level. For us, actually, it worked so well that people were really talking about values and holding others accountable to those values, that probably a year in, we chose to integrate our own company values into the Lift program. So we took the 8 original Lift values and we chose to bolt on our 4 company values to it then, and we extended the program out. And that was, I suppose, twofold. Number one, it definitely has impacted our culture in that you take the values off the walls, off the screensavers on your computer, and you start to talk about them. And for us, the other piece is we measure our people on how, not only what they do, but how they do it from a performance perspective. So we have seen that tangible shift in our culture, but also in our performance management process. And then the other piece, I suppose, for us is of late and over the last 6 months, we've integrated into our induction program. So not only are we doing it for those who are existing employees, but all of our new recruits and the new people we welcome into our business. The first thing on day one is they're introduced to the Lift program. We show them the video with Joanne and Sonia, and then we invite them all to come become a member of one of our Lift circles. And that has worked really positively. We run our first online induction, our virtual induction next week, and Lift is a core part of that. And we'll have those people, run through the Lift circle, the next Lift circles that take off across our business. And the final thing I suppose I talk to is the future for us, and a bit like for Suzanne and Covalent, we want everybody to go through Lift, and that's our ambition, and we've set ourselves that target. But actually, against the backdrop of COVID and the challenges that we face as a people organisation and as a business go forward, connection, people connections, well-being, and having great leadership skills are really core to us being successful over the next 6, 9, 12 months and beyond. And actually Lift, as part of our, not only our leadership pillar, but actually as a fundamental part of our people strategy, is going to become even more important to us as we look to survive as a remote business over the next couple of months and make sure that we don't lose that people engagement and that strong culture that we've worked hard to foster and to cultivate. So that's a little bit about us. I'm happy to take any questions at all, but I think my parting piece would be, we have felt the positive change. It's very simple for it to take effect. And I would certainly call out as companies go into the next couple of months, and we have tough days ahead for sure, Lift is definitely a beacon of very positive light amongst some of the challenges we face ahead.
Super, Louise. Thanks a million. I'm so glad I didn't know when I went into that boardroom that day that you guys had already decided before I went in that you weren't going to take it. I'm not sure I would have been as it might have hit my enthusiasm a little bit, or maybe not. But absolutely thrilled that you guys came on. With CPL as well as founding partners. It was fantastic. We got 24 founding partners at the beginning when we launched Lift in 2018, and 2 years on now we have engaged 6,000 people, and in the next 2 we're going to engage 60,000. So it's really a very exciting journey we're all on. One of the things that you touched on, Louise, was that you know, you've had a whole range of different teams that and different people that aren't necessarily on the same team but have all met each other through Lift roundtables or Lift circles in RSA. I remember getting sent a photograph by 2 of your colleagues in HR that were on phones in the back of a car. They were driving down to a meeting in Cork or something like that, so they weren't driving at the time, but they were both on phones to the Exco team doing a round table. And it's as simple as that, isn't it? You don't have to be face to face.
No, exactly. Yeah, and funny, I was the driver that day, funny, and I always laugh when I think back, but it is. And I think particularly, Joanne, you're right, as businesses are now remote, it's a very simple tool. And as you said, you've put everything online, which has been brilliant for us because, you know, we're a traditional insurance company. We've moved away from printing all of that stuff. It's not the hard copy booklets you'll see in some of those. Everything's online now. So it's easy to do from anywhere at any stage.
Yeah. Great. And the other thing, Louise, that we really spearheaded with yourselves was taking your 4 values off the walls and adding them into the Lift process and writing them in that way. And now with 9 of our partner organisations, including yourselves, with the ESB and with Goal and Munster Rugby, actually we've just done it with them too, and we're doing it for Solace and for others. We're taking their values and incorporating them into the Lift process so that in a round table somebody is looking at, so for example, you know, boundless ambition I know is one of yours, and thinking about how do I actually live that? Louise, thanks a million. Let me move over there to Denise Cullen. Denise is the Managing Director of Enterprise Solutions. And Denise runs a fantastic business in the Sandyford Business District. And so Louise, you have come on board in the last year with Lift. You got on board personally first and then brought your business involved. So you're going to talk a little bit about that. Your business is about 25 to 30 people, I think you have in your business. So it'll be of interest to all the small businesses that are out there. So you might just tell us a little bit about your small business experience of Lift and what it has done for you guys.
Okay, thanks Joanne for inviting me along this morning. I am the Managing Director of Enterprise Solutions. We're an IT transformation specialist helping business to use technology solutions to empower their employees and their business goals. So for me, I'm going to do my utmost to explain the impact Lift has had on us. First, let me say Lift is an amazing tool. We use it to improve the overall culture of our organisation. Lift is all-inclusive, it's a good fit for the young and the old, and it promotes behaviour, improves all-over communication and encourages open conversation. I personally absolutely love Lift, and as Joanne said, I was introduced to it myself personally first, and I came back full of enthusiasm that this was going to be the end for us. So I suppose it's a simple concept. It's with the power to have such enormous positive impact on the business and the team without a huge financial or time commitment, which is important when you're a small business growing. I suppose Joanne has explained Enterprise Solutions on our IT solutions company, and as you can imagine, being in this industry, there's a wide variety of personalities in our team. Lift gives each person that participates in a roundtable the opportunity to reflect on their core values to them personally. It also highlights how different people can have different strengths. It increases people's tolerance to each other and enables people to look at things from different perspectives. And I suppose for us personally, this was really valid for the type of different personalities we have. People's approach, you know, you've really technical people, their approach to something is completely different than somebody that's selling something. So the tolerance there isn't always great. And I think that highlighting the values has really enhanced our business in this way. In business, it's important to understand the vision. In a growing business, it's vital. Each of our potential lead, everyone has the potential to be a leader. And I believe that if you give people the tools for personal growth, they'll use them. And we have given people the opportunity to take time out of their busy day and study the individual cores, which means they have enhanced an understanding of the core values. I think most of us believe that we live our best lives. But when you look at the core values written in black and white, it makes us easy to understand and remind us how we can improve ourselves. The round table is extremely powerful and it reminds people to do the right thing. It encourages people to dig deep and to have true reflection. I think we're quick in society to excuse bad behaviour or ignore bad habits. The LIFT organisations calls out correct behaviour and reminds people to do the right thing. It's a subtle way to re-educate us. All in good behaviour, sometimes I believe that Irish were famous for, but we appear to lose our focus. Business-wise, it has helped us realign ourselves, raising the standards of personal leadership and therefore raising the standards of the whole team, which automatically means we deliver a better service to our customers. Enterprise Solutions, we're still in the process of rolling out LIFT, and not all the members of the organisation have completed the round table, which makes me think, you know, in relation to these two ladies that have thousands of people and their goals are so high, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're only halfway through and we've only 25. But look, we're on a journey. The internal feedback has been really positive. Everyone is excited to have their turn. By the time the 8 weeks is over, I think everyone has a better understanding of themselves as a person. They have highlighted some weakness that they can work on, and they identify strengths that they may not even realise they had. But you can certainly have had time to reflect on these core values and have a clearer understanding of what's required of them to live a better life and ensure positive self-improvement. I think, you know, for the business, the overwhelming initial positive impact is that listening and open communication has been enhanced in all the team. People calling out the 8 attributes. The 8 attributes means everyone examines themselves and are cognitive of things that went unnoticed before. There has been a definite improvement in communication and a visible improvement of respect throughout the whole company to each other. Another benefit to us was our own core values became real, not something filed away or hidden on the website for people to look and ask about. Because of LIFT, they are now displayed in reception and throughout the office, and we actively try and live these core values every day. I cannot recommend LIFT enough. I'm passionate about it and I hope in the future to get involved in spreading the word. I think LIFT is the most amazing concept. I believe that any business that introduces something that helps personal development to your staff, encourages open communication and give people the tool to self-reflect can be nothing but a positive outcome. And I'll finish just on one little note on a lighter side. My first round table I facilitated was at home with my family, my husband, my daughter 22, my 18-year-old son and my daughter's boyfriend. They agreed reluctantly to sit down so that I could practice. To be honest, I was blown away with their openness and honesty. The thought-provoking questions meant deep, sincere honesty. I was really moved to witness it. But I think the icing on the cake was when I was wrapping up my first session, delighted with myself on the positive outcome. My son asked, "Can I ask a question?" Yes, geez, I was delighted. Then he said to my husband, who had given himself a 9 for listening, "Dad, how can you live to 52 years of age and know so little about yourself? A 9 for listening." I laughed all night.
That's brilliant. Brilliant, Denise. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I suppose it's one of the portabilities of, if that's a word, you know, it's one of the usefulness of LIFT in that it can be used in a team of, you know, GAA players or a home or a family or any situation at all, which is great. But let me ask you, you refer to the 8 LIFT attributes, and a number of us have referred to the 8 LIFT values or LIFT attributes and so on. And just to call out what they are, so they're listening, positive attitude, respect, competence, dedication and determination, empathy, accountability, so that's holding ourselves accountable as well as holding other people accountable in a respectful way, and honesty and integrity. So they're the 8. I got those 8 because we did independent research in March 2018, and we asked people in Ireland, if we're to become better at leading in Ireland, what are the areas that we need to improve? And they were the top 8 areas that came out, and we built Lift around that. So it's a response, it's a response to exactly what people were saying. Now with COVID, we did some more research, and we asked again, where do we need to be strengthening how we're personally leading ourselves? And 2 more areas came out in addition to those 8. And the 2 were innovation and adaptability. That was the first one. And the second one was resilience. So we've now added them into the whole Lift program. We've also added in a tool of mindfulness. Dún Laoghaire County Council, we're looking to help businesses in the region work and use the mindfulness tool. So we've integrated that as an extra session into the mindfulness, into the Lift program too, and it's very easy to use. But Denise, if I ask you quickly there, what's your favorite one of all of them? Do you have a favorite?
I think listening, because I think listening, I suppose before I came across Lift, I didn't really consider listening a core value, which is probably horrendous, but I didn't. And I think for me, in the industry that we're in, this is really important, because I have a lot of people that are experts in different fields, so that they think they know everything. So for me, it's really important that whole core of listening to understand what the person is saying, not for your turn to speak. And I think that's been invaluable in our business. Like, I would literally, when I'm in a meeting situation, I will just say listening, and get everyone's attention, because they know exactly what I'm talking about. So for me, I know you could go through each of them, Joanne, and speak about each, how the impact, honesty and integrity, of course, is huge, but the impact for my own business situation, I think the listening and to breaking down the listening core value was really insightful to my team, and it certainly helps me navigate through my day.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, these are these are simple things. They're basic things. They're basic core areas of leading yourself well. And if we lead ourselves well, then other people want to follow us, and that's really what it's all about. And if you take listening as one of those areas, I mean, thinking about that person that every single time you meet them, they make you feel like you're worth 100% of their attention. I mean, that's such a good characteristic, and great leaders have got that characteristic. They have everything put aside. They make you feel like you're worth listening to. And that's a really wonderful leadership trait. So it is a great one. Louise, can I come back to you for a second and just ask you around behavior change? Because behavior change, it's really hard. I mean, if it was easy, we'd all be drinking our 2 litres of water a day, we'd be exercising every day, and we'd eat our greens all the time, because we know this stuff is good for us, but we don't do it. So behavior change is really hard. And Lift is designed to help us make small little behavior changes. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think it goes back, Joanne, you're right, to the simplicity piece of it. So you're not asking people overnight to jump into some realm of different behavior that they wouldn't be used to. All of these are simple behaviors and values that resonate with everybody. There's nothing really complex in there, but what it does is it has that little reminder on your shoulder or in the back of your mind, to remember. And actually, am I listening? You mentioned listening there, Denise. Even in your own house, when the kids are running around, it's like, am I taking the time to listen to them? Because it's that nudge, they're nudges. And what we have told, and it's as recommended by the Lift program, you should read that every day. It's 2 very simple pages. And it's nearly like going back to school. And reading aloud, some people wouldn't have done that in years. And I think the other piece for us is not everybody has to do it. It's easy to skip over somebody as well. But it's just those nudges, those gentle reminders of, am I listening? Am I being empathetic in all facets of your life? And it's just, what I love about Lift is, you talked about your husband giving himself a 9, Denise. You give yourself those scores, and you self-reflect. You don't get time often when life is very busy to self-reflect on your own values, and to really challenge yourself around where are you living them and where could you be better? It's all about positive. It's not criticizing yourself. It's just saying, well, actually, how could I up that? How could I be better in it?
Great, thank you, and thank you. Conor, I'm going to hand over to you now. I think there are some questions in from people that are attending.
Yes, thank you, Joanne. Thank you to Suzanne, Louise, and Denise. Very insightful. Yeah, we've a number of questions. I have one question first of all, if I may jump the queue. So Sandyford Business District, it has 1,000 companies, and everybody knows when you mention Sandyford Business District, Microsoft, Sage, Salesforce, Vodafone, Icon, but you know the district is more than that. You know, there's somewhere in the region of 900 SMEs, and the SME is up to 249 employees. But there are businesses, thriving businesses within the district that maybe have 5 employees. So, like, is there a minimum number of employees that a company should have before they can, you know, consider Lift as an option for them?
The short answer is no, Conor. There is no minimum size. In fact, Lift is, to my knowledge, the most inclusive initiative ever in the country. Anybody, any sized organization can get involved. If you even don't have an organization, or if you're a sole trader, you can get involved. So if, say, for example, you're a sole trader and you want to get involved in Lift and you want to build your own leadership muscle, because this is what this is about, you can become a Lift facilitator, and we'll help you put a group together. You can come and do it with us online, or you might decide to do it with another group, a few groups of sole traders in the district. So your company can have 5 people and you can do Lift roundtables, or your company can have 1, or your company can have thousands. It doesn't make any difference at all. The only thing that's different is the rollout process, and we walk hand in hand with you, and we help you with how you might decide to roll it out in your organization. The other thing I should say as well, Conor, is that we're totally a not-for-profit organization, and we've been set up so that we can build the capacity of leadership in the country, but so that everybody can access it. So it's brilliant. The organizations that can afford to pay and contribute financially to Lift Ireland do, and that means that any organizations or individuals, or our schools, our not-for-profit organizations and so on, they all can benefit from the training and the materials for free if they cannot afford it. So nobody is turned away, absolutely nobody.
That's great, Joanne. That was one of my questions. Our next question actually was just around cost. So you've answered that. I have another question that's come in. So can anyone become a leader? Like, I know myself, there's, you know, people have certain personality traits, and maybe some of those may not be, you know, lean towards, you know, those leadership qualities. So I presume you're not born a leader, and anyone can become a leader. Would that be correct?
Yeah, it's a great question. A really great question. So I always think of it a little bit like art and music. So some people are born with a little bit more music talent than others, and some people are born a bit more artistic. I wasn't, unfortunately, born with either of those. But it doesn't mean that I can't learn them, and it doesn't mean that I can't play the piano. And leadership is exactly the same. Some of us are born and have more leadership characteristics, perhaps, or through our upbringing and the role models that we have in our home lives and our school lives and our sporting lives and so on, have got good role models there, and therefore become better leaders at a younger age. But it is something that can be learned, and that's exactly what we show you how to do. So every time you come on to a Lift roundtable or a Lift circle, we call them both, you do one a week. It takes 30 to 40 minutes to do one, and we show you in that session how to build one area of your leadership character. And you go off and you think about that, and you take one small action to build that, and then the following week you come back, and in 30 or 40 minutes you build another area. And this is like building muscle. It's like you're strengthening these areas all the time, and every single person can get better and better. In fact, our oldest in age individuals that we have on roundtables at the moment are in their 80s. And the youngest, I'm not sure the youngest we have on roundtables, because there may be some family members with younger people, but we have plenty of teenagers that are doing it through their schools, where their teachers are doing it. And then some of the 16-year-olds in school in transition year are showing the 14-year-olds in school in the second year wellbeing program. They're showing them how to use Lift and how to build it. So everybody can do it. Nobody is excluded, and everybody is a leader. Everybody is. It's just that sometimes we lead better than others. So this shows us how we can lead ourselves better.
Okay. I suppose, well, I'm just conscious of time. Just the last question we'll deal with. I think it's been touched upon already. Obviously, you don't need to be in management level to be a leader, or be considered for the Lift program or journey. Anyone can do it.
Yes, that's correct. You don't. So if you are in a management position or have a management title or a leadership title, we would still encourage you to do Lift, because just because you have the title doesn't necessarily, sometimes we get promoted to those titles because of our technical skills and managerial ability, and not necessarily because of our leadership ability. So Lift can help us to reflect on how am I going as leader, and how could I get a little bit better. And in fact, when we're in leadership positions, it can be harder for us, because nobody is going to pull us up and correct us if we're not behaving in a good leadership way. So sometimes we can carry poor leadership behavior with us, as we might see around the world a little bit at the moment with some of the people in leadership positions that are there. But it's not just for anybody in a leadership or a management position. It is for absolutely everybody, whether you are a new intern just in the door, a new graduate. We're doing Lift with the ESB. They're one of our founding partners. They have their graduates on their 4-year graduate program that are all facilitators of Lift, and they are doing Lift up through the organization, where the graduates are the ones that are facilitating the roundtables with their managers. So it's showing that young leaders are facilitating this up through the organization, and it works. It's hard to understand how it does work, but it absolutely works.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. So if people want to get involved in Lift, you have the details on the screen at the moment. We'll wrap up now. I'd like to thank Joanne Hession, Lift Ireland, contributors, Suzanne Dolan, Covalent, CPL, Louise Lombard, RSA. Louise, you might use your leadership skills there to convince the powers that be to relocate RSA to Sandyford Business District. Denise Cullen, Enterprise Solutions, thank you. And thank you to all the listeners today. Remember, you can access this webinar and previous webinars on sandyford.ie. Thank you for listening, and take care.